What is up, FIFA Tears? Hello and welcome back to the 3 FUT Tears podcast with myself, LAJS, and we also have Mersgoth and B-Rad 86 with us. How are you guys doing this week?
Yeah, doing good amongst a little bit of chaos at the moment because the impending house move coming up in just over a week's time. So, yeah, looking forward to it. But obviously, yeah, you can see there's some stuff in the background there and things for those on YouTube. So, yeah, it's going to be a busy time. And maybe there's going to have to be a little break for me in FIFA content for about a week or so. But, yeah, other than that, all good.
Yeah, I'm not too bad. It's half-term week, so it's going to be a bit of a chaotic one as always with
Yeah.
having 4 kids and everything.
Yeah.
But in terms of FIFA terms as well, the past 7 days have been quite good, and I'll probably mention some of it later on in the podcast as we go through some of the subjects. But other than that, I am feeling very good, thank you.
Yep, and chaotic probably sums up the time of year. Obviously, we're coming up to Halloween very soon. And obviously, the Halloween promo got replaced by what we currently have, which is Rulebreakers. We are in Team 2 now. Last week, obviously, we had a good team. I think it's... Would you say this is a more well-rounded team, lads? What was your sort of thoughts? Because the headliner being Ribery, with him actually announcing his retirement, I believe.
Yeah, literally on the same day, I think, or day after. I feel like with this team, I feel like this was much more well-rounded, whereas the other one just seemed to be like, oh, here's Ronaldo, and then there's some other players. This one seems to be a lot more even across like some of the better players in the promo.
I don't know. I feel like this one's got a lot more cheaper players realistically in it. It doesn't seem to have quite as much, say, value to some of the players as maybe last week's did. And obviously Ronaldo was the real exception last week, but I think there was still at least a few more players. Like you had Fekir, you had PK and stuff that all like pretty much decent value. I'm just looking at this week's and it's
the main highlights for this week's one, about 5 or 6. You got Ribery, you've got Sergio Ramos, you got Thiago, Kai Havertz, Payet, Musa Sissoko could be chucked in there. Lacroix, if he didn't get the pace downgrade, would have been insane, but that was obviously if they're going to put him in Rule Breakers this early, that was going to be the stat getting downgraded.
Oh, I had to, yeah.
It's still 76k, so it's getting into the middling terms. I obviously did a video on Avia, who's the absolute dead cheap option. He dropped instantly and was about standard 20 odd k. It's definitely an interesting one. It's the usual faces. If we're going to talk about how classically, no new promo cards, it's all the same people. You look at Payet, you look at Havertz, you look at Ramos, Ribery. It's all outside of Ivan Toney getting a sort of card. Maybe Mounier not getting something since like Footmas or Footies.
And Estupinian, I think this was like a Future Stars, wasn't it? So this is like his first different promo card.
And Avia had a FUT birthday SBC last year, I'm going to say. It wasn't even an SBC, I think. I don't even think it was an SBC. It might have even been the...
Swaps.
Yeah,
swaps.
Yeah, he had a FUT birthday card. It was very good, I think.
I know a lot of people loved that. But Joe, the SBC's probably the first of the sort of uniquer ones when you look at them. You got Becker. Now...
What a beast.
It's a nightmare to link. You best build a Bundesliga team if you want to use this guy. You've got the option of him being lengthy or him being controlled.
Yeah.
But yeah, Suriname from Union Berlin. I know they're top of the league. They did get an upset loss, I think, this weekend. But yeah, top of the league still. There's potential that they'll get good cards down the line.
Yeah. I mean, that like that 92 pace card, that looks like the one for me. You know, I think people will think like they want to go with the one with the 82 pass and then the higher pace, but for me it's the other one because you can just boost with like a hunter or something to make him a proper striker. I suppose actually it depends as well. Like some people might want to play this guy as a right mid because they've already got a striker or something. He has got right mid and centre forward as his alternate positions. But for me, if you're playing this guy at striker, I'm taking the 92 pace with the extra physical and then boosting his pace with a hunter, I would say.
Well, there's 2 trains of thought here that we've got to look into because with it being a split SBC, there's going to be some differences. As I mentioned, one's controlled, one's lengthy.
Yeah.
The 92 pace one is the controlled version.
It is, yeah.
And the 96 is the lengthy one. But the lengthy one's only got 3-star skills. The controlled one's got 4.
4-star.
They've
yeah.
switched it. They alternate the weak foot and the skill moves. So one's 4-star, 3-star, one's 3-star, 4-star. In terms of long term, I think I'm agreeing with you. I would go with just in case they mess with the lengthy mechanic at all down the year, this one will still be more usable. It'll be more usable if they change it. If they don't, it will still be a very usable card.
Yeah.
And it's got 4-star skills, which I always prefer.
I've done him and I've taken the lengthy one, to be fair, because I was playing FUT champs. I don't know if it was qualifying or the main champs itself. I think it was the main champs. I got absolutely decimated by someone using that Becker card. Like, I think I was beating the guy, like, in the first half. He paused it, brought on Becker, and literally, like, Becker was just constantly going in behind my defense and finishing everything. So that tempted me to go for the lengthy one and having him as a super sub, because that's the other thing is with him being naturally lengthy, no one on your subs bench gets that like little stat boost increase like in previous years. Like, you get what you got on the card.
Yeah.
So I kind of went for that rather than necessarily caring so much about thinking, how am I going to build a team around him or something. And I gotta say, I haven't been that impressed by him coming off the bench myself. I don't know if it's just because of I'm struggling a little bit with like the attacking side of things, still trying to change my style of play, because I've spent so many years on playing a counter-attacking style of football that I have to slow things down a tiny bit more nowadays to get attacks. I'm still finding I can do counter-attacking. I'm just hoping that having him as a lengthy sub or something like that could help in later stages of the game, but not quite happening unless people do team pressing and stuff.
So as you have tried the card out then, so what Kevin style did you go for? Because there's obviously quite a lot that he still stays lengthy for.
I mean, with his if I was starting him, then I'd probably look to probably boost his passing and his shooting.
Yeah, that's literally is what I've just put on as a Deadeye, and that is, I think, is the one I would go for, because 96 pace is good enough. Then that puts him to like essentially 92 shooting and 89 passing, which I think would make him pretty good. My only concern with looking at the card is actually the medium low. I don't like medium as an attack and work great for a striker.
I mean, if it's medium low, they still get forward, to be fair. It's when it's medium that I have issues with it, or high or something like that, because obviously then it drags them back a little bit. But then again, I've been using Aubameyang, who's high low, and I've been finding him in 4-2-2 being further back than my cams.
Yeah, I mean, I've been able to live with a medium for a while. The high is a bit different. Yeah, I find it drops a bit deeper. So long as they've got at least medium for me, I can live with it.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're going to move on to the mini release, we can look at, well, you got Mikel Merino, who has had a couple of cards now. He 1 or 2 last year. Davinson Sanchez, who gets his annual card. I even was talking about this. I think it wasn't on the podcast last week, but I was talking to someone last week about, Sanchez would get his annual card.
Yeah.
And then Roldan, who takes the Barkhausen role in Rulebreakers this year. So maybe, Barkhausen wasn't from the club that continued to get cards. That was Preston instead of Birmingham. But we're going to see a bunch of Seattle Sounders get cards now.
Maybe.
Is that the prediction?
Maybe.
Is that the team they favour this year because they've got Xbox written on it?
Yeah, potentially. Maybe they've outsourced to maybe the Birmingham guy had enough left, and the new guy, the American guy that came in and decided how to change chemistry, is a Seattle Sounders fan. You know, maybe that's it.
That's quite the theory.
Merino, first time as a board last year, and had a very nice looking all-rounded card, and nothing's different here. This does look very nicely all-rounded. He's only 71k, which isn't too bad. I haven't seen actually though a lot of La Liga teams. But
Okay.
he can be lengthy, which is obviously something we'll always talk about until they decide to change it, with about 6 or 7 different chem styles. So at the moment he's like Hullet Gang, but missing the shooting. But actually, if you put a sniper on him, he then becomes Hullet Gang. His shooting goes to 80 and his physical goes up to 91. So yeah, he looks very nicely all rounded. It's just, again, for me, so he's a box to box because he's high 3-star 3-star. That's
Box to box, I can live with someone being 3-star 3-stars. When it's anything cam or higher up,
yeah,
I
get you.
start to get concerned.
I get you.
Like there's no issues with a 3-star on, say, a Kante or something. Like you can live with it. It's when it gets in the attacking.
With it being like build up play being like the king of things this year, like the key element, I'm just a bit concerned about him passing with his weak foot and it going astray. But yeah, I mean, I'd have to try him out in a draft or something to see what he's like really. He looks to me like the better card out of the three. I mean, like you say, Davis and Sanchez is standard, isn't it? Like, I know, like, you know, you guys are Colombian player fans and stuff, but
and I'm a Spurs fan as well.
And a Spurs fan, yeah. But 95k for this seems a little bit steep considering other players in this position. I know it's Prem.
Yeah,
I know it's Prem tax.
Interesting. I find it interesting they downgraded his dribbling on the card. That was not the stat I thought that would get dropped.
Yeah.
It's a drop of 3 from 66 to 63, so you're not going to notice it too much. But yeah, it's not the one I'd have thought they'd have dropped. I'd expect it to be probably physical. Let me have a look at his standard physical. Actually, no, it's not really a standout one to drop for him, honestly.
No,
you probably could have dropped shooting and people wouldn't have noticed.
That's it, isn't it? Most of these cards in this promo have had one really high stat that they've borrowed off, but Sanchez's highest stat is 79 defense, 79 physical. So they've had to rob him from somewhere to try and make him a better defender, more usable in game. But his highest stat, other than the ones that matter for defense, pace, defense, and physical, is dribbling, which was 66. And they've taken 3 off that and then boosted to high heaven the other stats. But yeah, to me, again, he still looks a little bit sus.
I mean, they haven't really been taken always from the highest stat. Like, especially if it's a defender or fullback or CDM, they've normally actually taken it from predominantly shooting.
Yeah, so Meunier the shout for that this year. He had 74 shooting, now he's got 71 on this card.
Yeah. That is a card I'm considering putting in my team. That looks good to me.
It does look like a very good... For 12.5k,
yeah,
that looks
that's
like
insane.
A very good deal.
That's insane. Someone said this the other day. If that card was Carl Walker, that would be $500,000.
Do you know what might be worth considering with like a Meunier? Is actually position changing him to a right mid, and then in game changing the formation so then he plays CDM.
Mm-hmm.
You're a monster.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree, but you're a monster. Because I can tell you what people are going to do with that. They're going to hear your little thing there and go, oh, he says right mid to CDM. What about right mid to centre back and stick him in a 5-back? Yeah, that sounds like a great idea.
Actually, that's something I hadn't thought about. Yeah, let's try that.
No, that's exactly what people are going to do. If you go, oh, you can change it in game, they'll go 88 pace centre back with 83 defending, 84 physical.
But
don't mind if I do.
You might have just geniusly solved my issues.
6'3".
What, you want to use a 5-back?
I don't want to use a 5-back, but I was having trouble getting him in because I don't want to take out Mahrez. But I could change things a little bit, and I've got Paulinho, the Fulham inform, as my CDM.
Yep.
I think we just found the new CDM.
Very
See,
interesting.
there we go.
We're helping Brad with his team. Look
There
at
you
us go.
Team
Look at
review
us go,
Mers, on the case.
But we briefly touched on SBCs earlier. There was an objective De Jong. That looks like a solid card, but people were quitting at 1-0. People finally found out what golden goal was once an objective says you have to score 2. It's genius.
It's toxic. That's what it is.
Oh, it winds you up. I'm glad I haven't tried this yet, but I'm sure I'm going to encounter this when I do later this week. And I'm not looking forward to it. From the stories I've heard, I'm not looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's just people. It's the community's just got more and more toxic over the years, unfortunately.
Yeah, it has. So we'll move off that. We'll move from objectives into SBCs because there's a pretty big SBC that's come out tonight, and I believe Brad's gonna demonstrate for you.
Oh yeah, baby. So, for those on YouTube, certainly you will be able to see this, but for those on the podcast, you need to head over to our YouTube to go and have a look and see, because I'm gonna not tell you on the podcast who I've got.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not gonna do it.
Oh, right, so we don't need to know.
You monster!
I gotta wait until the footage to see.
No, I can let you guys know, can't I? I can tell you on Twitter, but I'm going to open this now. The guys listening on the podcast, head over to our YouTube channel, subscribe, come and have a look at who I've packed in here. For those on YouTube, you're now about to see it. I'm going to give a reaction, but I won't tell you who it is, so here we go. Okay.
That's a reaction. Damn.
Okay, there we go.
That's quite a reaction you've got there.
Okay.
Whimpering voice and a lot of okays.
Yeah, it's not. I'll go ahead and say it's not the worst, but it's not the best.
Okay, so
but he goes,
now that we've vaguely touched on what that was,
straight in my team.
The hero pack, 87 caps.
Mm-hmm.
That gives you access to a lot of good ones, including the likes of Yaya Toure and Marquisio being the main ones people are targeting.
Yeah.
I know I was after Cordoba. Sadly, did not get Cordoba. I did get Capdevila though, which is on pretty much the exact line where the legitimate question of double L has to come in. Normally, you'll see someone go, "Oh, got Yaya Toure, double L, lads." This is a legitimate question. Is Capdevila double or an L in that circumstance?
I think it's not the worst and it's not the best. So I don't think you can say either. What's the price of the SBC?
73k.
73k, and Capdevila before
about 90
is
108.
109k. So he's more than the SBC, and he looks quite nice, and more importantly, he can be made lengthy. So I think, all in all, I'm gonna say it's a dub.
I'll take it gladly.
A small win.
A small win, yeah. A lowercase W.
Weirdly, he's gone up since the SBC released.
So this is what I was just saying.
I think that's just normally what
pack
happens
weight.
because of panics.
It's pack weight.
It's panic selling.
If people were panic selling, that would go down because there'd be more on the market.
No, because
they
they
keep undercutting.
panic before the SBC
beforehand.
comes out. Then the SBC comes out, and then the panic stops, so the market settles again. So then it goes up in price. You see it with Icon SBCs. You've seen it in the past. People panic because they know, because it's been leaked, they know it's coming. So like, shit, it's going to cause the value to go down. But what actually happens is because they panic, the value goes down. But then as soon as the SBC comes out, people have stopped panicking and the value goes up.
Moving swiftly on, we have finally, we mentioned it, I believe, briefly last week about player picks. We've got the first player picks of FIFA 23.
Mm-hmm.
And in no real shock, it's as restricting as it can be, and I don't blame them. If they release anything stronger than the 75 plus player pick with only 2 people, then that could drastically affect the market.
Yeah.
So it gives people the fun of, I can spam player picks. I've already got a reward from it. I'm happy. On the RTG, I managed to get my boy Musa Sissoko, so I'm more than happy with these at the moment. But we've not got a real indication of how good their pack weight is so far. I've only opened about 5 each, and well, one of them's got a rule breaker. I don't think anyone else has got anything of note.
No.
I've done another 5 since, so I've done 9 now, and in 9 I've now received 4 boards.
Okay.
But the boards aren't necessarily I've got Rafael Leao in one of them. I've got Suarez. 2 Fabians, and I think it might be 5. I think I might have got another Spanish player, but I can't remember. It would
David
be
Silva probably,
or something like that. Yeah, so reasonable.
Okay.
Reasonable. Like, I mean, to be fair, look in terms of value of fodder as well. It's good value because if you can somehow get some 84s and stuff, like 84s I think at the moment are about 3k, which is more than what the SBC value is. But if you get something more than that, because of the fact that EA are putting in these requirements that need 85 minimum, 85s are 10k. 86s I think are about 15k. 86s I think are about 18k, 20k. 88s I know is about 27k when I was completing the SBC. So if you do manage to get like a walkout or something like that, it's actually quite helpful because of the pure fact that EA have made walkouts essentially, or high rated boards, actually a bit more expensive thanks to their requirements.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah,
something we meant to touch on a little bit earlier, when we were touching on the hero pack, we really meant to then voice some, I'm going to say, some long-standing complaints that people have started to have with the chemistry system.
Yeah.
So EA, when EA first announced this, people were like, "Oh, this is gonna be interesting. You know, it's refreshing. It's something new. We'll be happy with this." And now, obviously, heroes being better than icons and things like that, it's starting to lose its shine fairly quickly. People miss the days where, I know the Falcao SBC that came out last week, people missed when you could just put him in 4-5-1 attack, put 2 cams there that are icons, or something like that, and then he's on full chemistry.
Yeah.
Now you've got to build around him with Colombians, or you're not going to find, because what he's at, I'm going to say, I should know, it's like Mallorca or someone.
Oh, Rayo Vallecano or something like that?
Yeah.
Vallecano,
yeah.
So he's there, and it's not exactly a club that's got anyone particularly good at it. So you've got to go out your way to build a fairly La Liga team around him to get him on chem and stuff like that. So people are missing the days where you could just build a team and put maybe an icon here, an icon there, and then you're sorted.
Yeah.
What are your takes on this?
I mean, I'm just going to say, in some ways, it is a pain in the bottom, yes, for building a multi-league hybrid, but we are still early doors. And if anything, once you start seeing more special cards coming out, doing these sort of like hybrids will get a little bit easier. And I'm going to have to sort of segue sideways here slightly for something that you're going to have a different topic, which is to do with the dynamic duos. The latest dynamic duos is point and case with helping with that whole multi-league hybrid because of the pure fact that they're from the same nation and the same club, where you can have just those 2 players in now, have the manager as a Serie A manager or an Austrian manager, and those 2 players are instantaneously on full chem. So that sort of like covers that, and then suddenly you can then try and sort of like do maybe something else with the rest of them. So maybe you could do another sort of perfect link situation, 3 players from the same club that are same nation, and then that leaves 6 players that you can have from the same club that could from the same league, that you then just try and go 2 players from the same nation, 2 players from the same league, and then 2 maybe having to interweave with the rest of the squad type thing, and then bish bash bash you got a full chem, or you could just have 1 or 2 players off chem. So I think down the line it'll be less of an issue. I just think at the moment, when they're releasing players from the smaller clubs, from maybe obscure nations like your Beckers and stuff like that, that's just a bit of a pain to try and like fit those sort of players in to get onto full chem. But I think down the line it'll be fun.
I think the thing for me, like, it just limits like some of the options of if I take a player, for instance, you'll probably understand what I'm going to get at here. So like last year, the Akinfenwa. Okay, so you could have him, and you could just block him in to a formation with English players. Yeah. So say if you had the Moments DCL, or you had other English cards that you could block him in with, and then he would be on full chemistry. But this year, to get Akinfenwa's special card on full chemistry would be really tough. Now I know that unlike last year, supposedly that they don't change or they still have their base card stats, so they don't get as affected. The problem is, whilst that might be true, we don't actually know still fully how a full team with 3 diamonds on each player is better than that one card that has only got like 1 diamond. We still don't really quite know the levels and the massive difference before it, because there's not been enough sort of talk about the comparison, or even someone showing how much of a comparison it is. I suppose it would be tough to do so in a way, because you're never going to come up against the same opponent as well. But for me, like, them sort of niche cards are almost impossible to use unless you basically get 3 cards from the same club, which then that limits the promos, that limits the SBCs, that limits the special card selection, doesn't it?
I mean, I would argue and say that having a player off chem isn't necessarily too much of an issue. I mean, granted, bringing on a substitute late in a game is a different matter, because obviously you're coming up against, say, tired people. But I've seen people that have brought on substitutes in the first half, or even in friendlies, bringing on players straight at the start of the game. Like, whilst I've been doing De Jong's objective cards, people have been bringing substitutes on at the start of the game, and obviously those are technically on 0 stars, and they don't seem to have too much of a negative effect. And you say no one's really done comparisons. That I've seen, obviously, the likes of AJ3 and Danny Aarons have done comparison videos on a team on full chem and a team not on chem. I can't remember what the results was, but obviously I don't think they really noticed much of a difference. But as time goes on, when you get more higher rated cards, that chem, in my opinion, it won't be so like important because of the stats of the card. Like, say for instance, team of the year, right? You get lucky, you pack a team of the year player. Does it really matter getting that team of the year player on full chem? No, not realistically, because most of the time their stats are going to be in the 90s and stuff, similar to like the team of the season. So I think between now and team of the season, there will be complaints about it. But once you get to team of the season and beyond, I think you could potentially get on perfectly fine with a 11 league, 11 nation team, if you really wanted to.
I'd like to try it. I'd like to see it. I think, like, for me, like, I explained this to Luke, like, before I started tonight, but I said, for me, usually right now, I would be doing the build a team series where I do different things to build teams around a marquee player, and I would have done that on this hero pack. But at the moment, all my cards are heavily invested. Or my coins, sorry, are heavily invested. So I don't have the luxury of buying a team, if you know what I mean, around them at the moment. But hopefully in about a week's time I should have. And that is where chemistry I won't have it. And last year, when I did that series and was going into games with players that were on really low chem, they were absolutely awful. They were sluggish, they were slow to move, and we're talking like decent players in the game. So I am looking forward to seeing, when I do get to that, exactly how much I notice a difference in some of the sort of premium cards being on 1 diamond, or even not, even with an exclamation mark there,
Yeah, but I would say
that last year you got negative stats was the difference. This
exactly.
Year you don't get
I was about
stats,
to say that.
Poor chemistry, you'd get up to, I think, minus, I'm going to say 15 on stats if it was 0 chemistry last year.
Yeah, minus 15.
Big difference.
Yeah.
So there is always that to factor in. It's going to be, I'm going to say, as advertised is the phrase to use. But we mentioned the dynamic duo. It is Porsche, who is a fairly quick Serie A defender.
Oh, brilliant.
Oh, boy. Yeah, I didn't even intend it as a pun, but hey, that works. So, yeah, Porsche is fairly fast. He works with an Arnautovic, and you can link this with the Rulebreakers Alibra if you did that last week as an extra link. So you've got ways to get this fairly well done on chemistry already.
Yeah. Maybe
if another Austrian card comes out, so say Sabitzer gets his annual 500k SBC for no reason, you're going to be sorted. It's a solid looking duo.
I'm a big fan.
Arnautovic being 4-star, 4 stars, very nice. I wanted to try these out on the day and do a review on them. I was out at the time, so I couldn't. I'm going to still do a review on Arnautovic anyway. But Arnautovic's cards normally do... I have a good record of them. Even dating back to, I think it was his FIFA 16 tots at Stoke. I've always got on well with Arnautovic.
I think... So, there's a lot of positive things to say about this card. First of all, lengthy with a hunter. So he then essentially becomes 91 pace and 91 shooting. That is lovely. Like you said, 4-star, 4-star. Again, really lovely. 6'4". Kind of like this guy really at the moment, the way things are and the current gameplay fits the meta. And then to top it off, he has got, as Luke put it, a fast, perfect link in Porsche. Which I'm a big fan of this dynamic. I like the dynamic. I think the dynamic duos with the chemistry system this year should stick to being perfect links. I know we touched on this when last year when they started introducing the dynamic duos and said they started off that way and then suddenly they didn't. They sort of went away off it and there were other options. I think I did a video based on a predicted of potential one where it was Pogba and Rabiot because they were both, or Pogba just then moved to Juventus, and there was a potential for that there, but they didn't. They went for something else. I would like to see that they are all like that, just to help with the chemistry system. But yeah, I'm a big fan of this one. They got more importantly, they got the image right on the cards, EA, when they released these. So that's important.
Yes, indeed. Compared to last week of Harrison and Rodrigo.
Yep.
To finish off, there is pretty much a premium SBC. People complained last year, I remember. It's one that EA didn't really have a choice in. But there's a premium centre attacking mid Messi out. Last year, I remember people complaining that there's not enough. I distinctly remember it because they referenced Varane being flashback as one of the only good premium SBCs last year. Until very late on. So there's normally a really expensive SBC. This one's justified because, well, Messi player of the month's only ever going to be expensive. You're not going to get him for dead cheap unless he suddenly decides to... Well, if they basically reduce his pace a whole bunch, in a year or two. So, yeah, Messi player of the month, 800k. He's already got a card on the right wing, which is 1.1, I'm going to say, or at least was.
Yeah, 1.1 it was,
million.
yeah.
And that one's got potential to go up. So technically, that's already a 93 rated card because they're getting through the knockouts and probably winning the extra games. So it's actually 94.
Yeah, so he's now 1.4, but at the time he was 1.1. I remember looking.
So we got to factor in. I'm not doing this. I know certain people will do this. I can't justify it to myself.
No.
I don't really have a league inside. I have Donnarumma as my shout for it if I'm going to go, I've got Donnarumma and Hakimi. But at that point, I could just save an extra couple 100k or $500,000 at this point now. And I'd be practically there. I don't really have much untradeable fodder to sort of make up the difference. So, yeah, we'll just let that one pass, I reckon.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't blame you. There's a few factors in this that, so... If you really want a Messi card and you got 800k to have spent, bearing in mind we're talking about at the time, not now, because obviously this one's gone up. But at the time, for an extra 300k, which if you got 800k, you can make 300k fairly quickly. You could have got this other Messi. Yes, he's a right wing, right mid, so he's not a cam. But obviously people change formations in games, and you can work this around to have got this card, which 1 is tradable, 2 is rising in price, and 3 is better in stats anyway and is going to rise in rating. That was to me the no-brainer if you really wanted a Messi. Other than that, the actual difference between a player of the month card and his standard gold card is not enough to justify going from 250k to 800k, bearing in mind that this can only go into your team or your formation as a cam to get all the links. Now, that doesn't it doesn't stupidly lower your squad building requirements. Nearly 1/3 of the formations that you can use to build with that cam Messi. So, you know, that's a third of your chances. Like for me, like at the moment, I'm now currently in my squad screen, and I'm looking at building a squad in the 5-2-2-1 right now to fit in the players that I want. And it is difficult. It's like a puzzle because of the way chemistry is this year. And this obviously doesn't have a cam, and a lot of the formations there, 18 of those formations available to you do not have a cam. So for me, if they'd have made this so this could be cam centre forward striker or cam centre forward right wing, so they didn't give him the right mid part, this makes it a little bit more worth the price. But based on the fact that his 91 card is very similar, like in stats, there's not a lot of difference. It's just one extra on all his face stats. In game, maybe more. But I think this is just way overpriced and not worth your money unless you're a die-hard PSG or Messi fan, or you've just got coins to burn through, or you're a big-time content creator who's doing it for videos.
Yeah, to be fair, I think it is that being stuck to being a cam being a big thing, but I feel like these player of the months, the way that they're probably going to be dealt with, and like in terms of their positions, is what they're playing that particular month that they earn it, maybe. So probably, I'm guessing Messi just basically played cam for the full entire month, so that's probably predominantly why he's just a cam.
And have they given any alternate positions to a player of the month? Because I remember Valverde being complained about for being strictly centre mid.
I mean, yeah,
So
Gakpo is.
Rashford
He played right wing as well, or right mid for the inform. So that's why I sort of mentioned it.
Yeah,
He obviously had played somewhere else.
yeah, Gakpo's can move left wing, left mid. Rashford can move. Yeah. So it's not the case that like he has only played in this position. And while we have a look while we're talking in the background, and I will come back to it. I'm just going to see like on the lineups just where he has placed during the month of September. But yeah, I think even so, say that is a strict thing that they try and stick to, that he has played cam in all those games that he's got a player of the month for. I still just think, given the way that they decided to work chemistry this year, they've made this so it's very difficult to find a reason to complete it.
I mean, I'm looking at Rulebreakers, to be fair, and there's not non-centre backs, because the centre backs predominantly stay centre back except for a few occasions. There's actually 3 Rulebreakers that can't switch positions either. You've got Moreno, Thiago, and Fekir that are all stuck to the face card position. So it's not necessarily just going to always be the player of the month, but
no,
it can be annoying when it comes back down to this whole talk of the chemistry and stuff, and it does make it more difficult, because also like when you're looking at the options, you got to fit them in your cat, because that's what I had like a couple of weeks ago when I was building a team. I was like, okay, I need this in this position. Now I've got this blank. What are my options? I need to have this. So then you're checking what is available in that position. You're like, I can't use this. So sometimes you might remove somebody else out to then fit into that team. So it just might be that the case with Messi. And at the end of the day, when it comes to Messi and Links, right, it's not exactly the worst case of scenarios. Like, it's not like PSG have the worst of options available to fit into a team if you have to potentially buy players or something like that.
Oh yeah, but it's not necessarily about him. It's about building around him with other players that you want that have to fit into a formation that has cam. That's more the issue, isn't it? It makes you, rather than sort of where you do the Messi SBC and all you really want to do is change him and maybe another player, you kind of may have to even like go for a full overhaul in your team, and not a lot of people want to do that because they've got players that they like playing with that they're used to using. But I have done my look and search, and this actually like is even more of a wind up. The 3 matches in September, he played 3 different positions. He played striker, right wing, and cam. So
I mean,
there's definitely arguments to have had different positions.
But I think at the same time, maybe EA are factoring this in, because let's not we haven't really spoken about this SBC, but they've got the position change modifier SBC that's on constant refresh at the moment.
Yeah.
That you can do every few days. So obviously, I have a feeling EA have put that there so that if you have to make your changes to your team and you've got that ability to do that SBC to collect some position modifiers so that you can potentially move players around in your team if has to for awkward players and awkward formations. Like, for instance, in my team that I used this weekend, I used because I tried out some of the rule breakers from Team 1. I had to change my formation. I then brought in some new players. So I brought in Rodrigo, for instance. So I then used one of Rodrigo's secondary positions. I had Sterling, who was on his secondary position of right wing. Had to move him back to left wing and stuff like that. So I just ended up using the position modifiers for it in the SBC. So.
And that's because you're able to use that to move those players. But say, for instance, if I look at my team now and I wanted to fit Messi into my current team, and I've got Timo Werner, who is in form, but my striker spot is already taken up and my left wing spot is taken up. The only other place he can play is at centre forward, but there aren't any formations that have a centre forward and a cam.
But what about your left wing? Could that left wing then potentially move to a different position so then Timo Werner can take that position on the left wing?
Yeah, no, because the left wing is a left wing or a left mid. So that's what I mean. There's scenarios where you're going to have to sacrifice a player that you would want in the team, with this being so restrictive.
Sacrifices must be made for the greater good of the team, I say.
for the goat, yeah.
Yeah.
Literally sacrificing a goat.
So to conclude, we've got finally the sort of last bit of news, which is there was another foundation that came out yet again, similar positions, a left winger, fullbacks. It's the usual EA rinse repeat. The only thing that didn't come out that was predictable was there's no striker. But MLS has now got his cards, and to be fair, one of them is very nice. One of them is very, very nice, and he came out as an SBC. That's our boy Insigne.
Yep.
I've always liked Insigne cards. I think that's fairly well known amongst us lot that I've always liked Insigne.
Yeah, I mean, I just think if you haven't done this card, I don't know why. Look at him and look at the price. Like, again, yeah, we're talking, if we go back to links again and that, yep, we're probably looking at this guy having to be in a in either an MLS slightly built team, which actually so far with the promos and heroes and stuff isn't actually impossible, but he still looks amazing as a super sub, and that's what I'm going to be using this guy for. That card for 34k, come on, that's insane.
Nah,
It's insane, but also you can wait for Chiellini to come out at some point.
Yeah, true. Yeah,
Distant future, same league, same nation, different club, I believe. Moves to Toronto and LA, I believe, being the teams in question.
Yeah,
but it's very, very nice sort of a link once you get it.
Yep. Yep, definitely.
And to be fair, I'm waiting until Team of the Year to complete him, because obviously
all 100
all the
days he should be just about okay.
Yeah. Because of the mountain packs that I'll probably be opening around that time, so I'll probably have loads of fodder that needs to be done, so that's probably when I'm probably going to complete. Same with like João Mario. I'm kind of leaving those two until nearer that time, potentially, just so that I've got SBCs that I can send fodder into.
You're putting them on the back burner.
That's fair enough.
Basically.
I mean, the only problem with that, I suppose, is you're not then getting to use him over the next sort of 60 days, but yeah, I get what you mean, that it's nice having a couple of SBCs there that you can not have to just keep discarding your duplicate untradables, all your Tony Cruises.
Well, to be fair, you just chuck them right now into the Dynamic Duo. Realistically, 83s each. That'll be your prime time for that, I reckon.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think that's all we've got time for this week. So we will see you next week for another episode of FIFA Tears podcast. I've been LAJS. That has been B-Rad. That has been Mersgoth. Thank you for being here. And
No
we'll
problem.
see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Ciao. Bye-bye.
Peace out, guys.